So the board voted to follow the schedule and the withdrawal process. And we voted to meet at our November meeting, which would be after the referendum, to decide if we wanted to request withdrawal. That's what we did. And at the November meeting, we voted to withdraw. But we voted to request ISAC to withdraw the nomination because that is the state's procedure. The end run came then when the village president went to IHPA and asked them to take it off of the council's agenda, therefore not following the state's procedure of the council taking it off the agenda themselves at the meeting.
What?
We went directly to Bill Wheeler, who has the responsibility for that area, and also the person that Brad and I had visited with about the application.
And you did that against what the board voted. The board voted to request the council to withdraw the nomination, which is the state's procedure for how nominations are withdrawn after the agenda is set. State law dictates
That's
not
how
how
it
There's state law
No,
dictates
please,
how
please,
village
please,
boards
please.
vote.
But why is it the attorney?
A majority
Where's our
of the
village
elected
attorney?
trustees are required to pass ordinances and to pass motions. A majority of the board voted for the procedure that we would follow for withdrawal. It was, you're right, Katie, it's not what you voted for, and it evidently was not what Tolbert wanted, because then Tolbert went to the associate director and asked him to review it, and then sent a letter to the community saying that the state has decided not to withdraw the nomination.
Based on what they told us.
But we already knew that. We knew that
The
when
community didn't know it.
We did not
We
know
didn't.
it.
We didn't know
The community didn't know it. You're just spinning
No,
again,
no,
Jackie.
your
You're spinning
letter,
again.
I am not spinning.
Yeah, you are.
Yes,
We're fed up with
Please,
you.
please, please.
Mr. President,
Yes.
I again, in listening to all this, we can argue about this all night. Who did what, and who misstated what, or who misled someone else. The fact of the matter is, we've had almost 1,000 residents
Yes.
that did not want this to happen. And we've heard them, and now it's just a matter of formalizing the withdrawal, and whether it's needed or not. I don't know who's right here or who's wrong, and I don't know that anybody here is an expert. But the fact of the matter is, we've all agreed, I think, to request the withdrawal. The understanding is we think it's been withdrawn. I'm not quite sure. I'm really not quite sure.
I spoke to Bill
I'm
Wheeler
not
myself
quite
today.
sure. Because
There's no doubt about it, we got a letter that said it.
because before I thought it was,
Yes.
and it wasn't.
But Bob, we had this letter in our
And
packets.
then there was this whole conversation about an ordinance. Do we need an ordinance to submit it? Do we need an ordinance? The state saying, well, you submitted the ordinance, maybe you need an ordinance to come back because I'm not sure. I'm hearing from other people that it may not be an official action. This, in whatever form it finalized in, would be the official action. And I recommend that we take an official action and just stop. The election's over.
Yes.
The presidential election's over. I mean, you know, you can rehash who said what and who was right and who was wrong and who made misstatements until we're blue in the face. And I think a lot of trustees have said it's time to kind of heal the community,
Right.
at least temporarily. And I'm in favor of, in whatever final form we can agree on, let's do this, and let's do this tonight, and let's move on to other things.
Well, Bob, I have something to say to that. I agree with you wholeheartedly. It is time to move on, and that's why I voted November 10th to request withdrawal of the nomination. That ended it. That was the decision the board made. I voted to submit the nomination back in the summer because I believed that the village being listed on the National Register was a good thing for the community, creating an incentive for renovation through education and pride while giving maximum flexibility to property owners. It creates no restrictions, and nationwide studies show. No, I have something to say, and I have the right to say that. Nationwide studies show it raises property values and decreases time on the market for home sales. I voted to submit the nomination without a referendum because I believed the property owners are the ones who should make the determination of whether or not the village is listed on the National Register. Out of respect for the voters, I voted at our November board meeting following the referendum to request withdrawal of the nomination from ISAC. The board agreed and voted likewise. That should have ended the issue. I see no reason to participate in the continued hysteria and the fear-mongering about something as ubiquitous and innocuous as a proposed National Register listing. The issue of withdrawing the nomination is moot. The board voted on November 10th to request withdrawals. It is off the agenda. The council will not review the nomination. That vote ended the nomination and should have ended further discussion of the issue. This continued letters to the community and now a call for an ordinance to formalize something that's already been finalized, I believe is uncalled for and feeds into the hysteria. I question again why we're having this meeting and why there was a special meeting on November 21st, and I do not believe we need an ordinance, and I refuse to participate in the hysteria being created when I have already voted, when the action has already taken place, because I think it makes it seem like we did not do it, and like we believe in this hysteria.
Mr. President, I'd like to suggest that all these comments be taken part of the record. I do think I would like to end this now. I feel very strongly about that. I've originally came into the idea of voting against this ordinance because I don't think we need it. I don't like the last part of it. But I know if we were to vote against it, we would create all sorts of hysteria in the village.
That's right.
That's been our practice. Even though I think there's a clear understanding that we don't need it, and we already took action on it, I think this will get spun all out of control just as a number of other things have. I would like to go on record saying it is over right now.
Yes.
We're going on with the voters, but the ordinance does not preclude other people from doing the same thing, taking information, not the exact same form. And by the way, Bob, I think when consultants, being a consultant, whenever you do a report, it doesn't really belong to the consultants, it belongs to whoever paid for it.
That's right.
A consultant can't really copyright a report. I mean, at least that's
It's definitely.
I've never been lucky enough to copyright a report I've done. So
No, that's true in this case, it's in our contract, it's our property.
Yeah, it's our property. And I think it's fine, but I do think there's gonna be, if someone wants to take part of the village and be listed as a historic register, they're gonna use a lot of the same information. I want it clearly understood that just because we maybe passed this ordinance, that does not preclude people from using the same information. It just doesn't make sense, that's all.
Then if you want it clearly understood, that last sentence should not be in there. That should be removed. All it needs to say is the nomination is hereby withdrawn.
I have no problem with that.
I do. I think the
I do
second
too.
sentence needs to be.
And as I stated earlier, I could approve of this ordinance to the satisfaction that you would like to have it, but not the way it's written. And I will not vote for it with these whereases or the way the withdrawals are written. Just to let you know that.
We've already seen the threat of lawsuits, frivolous lawsuits over this issue. I could see somebody in the future threatening a lawsuit because somebody used some of the history that was in a nomination. Our history is not going to change. The architects who built the houses are not going to change. The styles of the houses are not going to change. And many of the contributing and non-contributing structures and status of those structures are not going to change. There could easily be a lawsuit over anything in any nomination because it might in some way be viewed as lifting from the previous nomination.